Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of All Knicked Up. It is Wednesday, November 6th. There's a lot of adjectives I could use for today, but I'm not going to. This is not that type of show. So, of course, you guys were listening to the smooth sounds of Ty from a former life. But let me bring Ty on. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Okay. Today was kind of a long day, but
I think most of America feels that way, but it's all good.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I could say, but I'm trying to keep this show focused on what exactly it is we're supposed to talk about.
Distraction. That's what the show's about.
yes. So, at least for some people, right? At least for some people, not all people. I don't want to speak for everybody.
It is what it is. Good morning, Vietnam or America. Which one is it? I don't know,
but depends on your perspective, right? Your perspective.
It is what it is, America.
Yes.
Still got to go to work. Still got to do what you got to do. That's what it.
Yep. We still have lives to live, and we still have things we have to do. So let's hunker down, live our lives, do what we do, and see what happens. That's the only thing we could do. See what happens.
Exactly.
So, but of course, we are here not to talk about politics. We're here to talk about the New York Knicks, and we have a good show planned for you guys. The Knicks will be playing tonight, so that's why again we're starting this show a little bit early. They'll be facing the Hawks tonight at 7:30 p.m. on the MSG Network. Is this a nationally televised game? I don't.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so for some reason. I don't know why I'm not thinking it's not.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is, but it is on MSG for all of the fans who are New York local fans or people who have the MSG app, or now what they call the Gotham Sports app that has, all of the local channels in there. We have that coming on. So if you got everyone, out there, that's why we come on a little early to talk about it and then give you time to go watch the game and hopefully enjoy the game. I think that's what I need tonight. So, but the Knicks right now are standing at 3-3. And coming off their last game, which was a loss to the Houston Rockets, we kind of saw some old bad habits. I don't know about old bad habits, but we kind of saw some bad habits showing up in that game. Specifically from our star player, our best player, Jalen Brunson. Now, I'm never going to completely dog the guy because he's been everything that we could have hoped for and more since he's signed here. But it was not, to me, one of his finer performances. I think he fell in love with his own offense in that game, kind of ignoring, the guy who Joe, who's not here tonight, by the way, guys. Joe's not feeling so well, so he couldn't make it. But Joe called him is it a planet? Did he call him a planet?
He's a planet, I think. I think he's the planet and Jalen Brunson's the sun. Am I correct?
Right. So the planet of Karl Anthony Towns was ignored, in my opinion, way too much on against the Rockets. And I mean, people like to say, well, he could be more aggressive, but he's not a guard, right? He has to get the ball. Someone has to give him the ball. There are times he does bring the ball up, but we don't want that. So I really prefer to see him being the recipient of passes from anybody, whether it be Brunson or who's ever dictating the offense. And Brunson in that game, to me, especially in crunch time, because the game was close, the Knicks had a chance to win it. And I don't think he intentionally ignored him, but he wasn't looking for him. I guess that's the better way to put it. And Ty, we talked about it, so I'm going to let you speak on this part about the pick and roll specifically. So go ahead and talk about the pick and roll, because that's what we didn't see yet again.
Well, let's address the planetarium that Joe talks about. Brunson literally told Cat, "That's Uranus." So that's all it was. Uranus is not getting the ball. That's really what it came about. the play on the words, Uranus is not getting the ball. Well, it's no big secret. If you read my name or whatever, it's up there. It says, feed the, what preferences? The damn cat. That's what I talk about, feeding the damn cat. And that's literally what this is all about. We have to have some sort of semblance of a combination play with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And what is it? It's the P&R, That doesn't mean rice. That's not what that means. That means pick and damn roll. This is something that would be great for that tandem. I mean, I think that's what most of the league, when Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns was believed to be teammates or going to be teammates, everybody anticipated a pick and roll. Like, well, wow, imagine the dynamic duo these guys would make with the pick and pop, pick and roll. Both guys are excellent shooters. They can operate in the mid-range game. You would think that's tailor fit to a guy like Jalen Brunson, who loves operating. But what we've also learned from Brunson, in which we're not going to really obviously talk bad about him, we are where we are because of Jalen Brunson. Big up to him. Total respect. However, that doesn't mean he's above being critiqued. The one critique that we've had from the beginning is that he lacks vision, that we don't believe he's obviously one of those point guard types of players. I was speaking to one of our members, June 1, the other day, and I said, what kind of gets wrapped up with a lot of people is they see a miniature player and they assume that, he's miniature, he's going to be Chris Paul. He's going to be a point guard, because the height requirement usually means that if you're that small, you're playing point guard. But Jalen's an ISO player. He has the ability to pass, but think of him as being more like a mellow type. He's more mellowish, or, I don't want to say AI. I think he's a little bit better efficiently than AI. I think he's more of like what you saw with Mello, really, but he has the capability of obviously passing a little bit more. But in saying so, it's like Jalen is going out there operating as an island of his own. Him incorporating Karl Anthony Towns has to be not something that he comes up with. What I feel has got to be a system of play for the whole entire team that will allow them to actually highlight the greatest weapon they have on the floor and on the team, which don't ever get this twisted. I don't care if you don't like Cat. I don't care if you think he's a soft kitty or whatever little stories you want to say. You want to say he's flaky, or, we've heard, well, I don't want to say the Z word, but we've heard all these things attached to Karl Anthony Towns in a derogatory manner, and et cetera, et cetera. And all right, get it all out your system. Let's talk about what the hell he is. He's a hell of a basketball player. He's one of, if not maybe the best scoring player in the league. And I don't even think that's even pushing a button in the wrong direction. That's not hyperbole. He's just that damn good. And when you have a player of that magnitude, as I always said, I mentioned in something I wrote the other day you can check it out on the fan page. That's one of the things I talked about. Brunson is a lumberjack, and he's chopped down a lot of redwood trees that have come into New York. But when you got something that can actually just rip up 40 trees at one time and get the job done with, that's what you want to have. You want to have the easiest route possible. Obviously, watching Brunson operate, he's a brilliant ISO player. We love everything about him, and it's what makes him something that New York has adored, the toughness, the ability to get a tough shot off. Yeah. We love all that. But I'm one of those people, I believe we got to move into the modern day. I'd rather have someone easily get 60% of their buckets off of just one play as opposed to a guy that needs about 15 to 20 dribbles in order to maximize his talent. Karl Anthony Towns is the dog that you need to feed. I mean, he might be called a cat, but you need to feed the damn dog and give him the damn ball. Because right now, Brunson, as great as he is, I don't think nobody in a New York Knicks wearing any New York Knicks memorabilia, fan, whatever clothing, is thinking Jalen Brunson is not that dude. But Jalen Brunson's ass need to defer. This is time. If you're going to, don't go pet it here. You need to defer. You need the fur. You need the coat or whatever. You got to defer to the one dude that can score better than you at an easier rate than you, and that's Karl Anthony Towns. I don't care what soft labels you want to put on that dude. Look at those numbers when he was engaged in Miami. Miami plays great defense. that should be the numbers every night for that guy because there's no answer for him. And then once he gets going, then there's no answer for Jalen. So it has to start with Carl, and then maybe Jalen is the closer if things get tight. But Karl Anthony Towns didn't need a heavy dosage every quarter. Karl Anthony Towns, and that's not even debatable at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I even posted on our fan page. I even posted the stats about the difference in the Knicks record when he looks for him and he has assists to Towns as opposed to not. And essentially, in the 3 wins, there's some assists. He has some assists to Towns, and the 3 losses he doesn't. Yep. So, yeah, it's essentially that. Right now, it's that black and white. Like when he involves Karl Anthony Towns, the Knicks win games. And I mean, again, it's early. It's still early in the season, right? We talked about before the season. It's probably going to take about 20 games to really see what this team is. And I think that's always a good rule of thumb every season. Give the team time to play together, and they're still working things out as well. But it was the execution or the players that were setting the picks, and it wasn't Towns. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is Josh Hart setting a pick for Brunson? And I'm like, Josh Hart is fantastic. We all know how much, the way he plays. We all love it. But he's not a scorer. So as a pick, as someone coming off the rolling after the pick, the defense isn't looking to, they don't care about stopping him. They're not afraid of him. He doesn't scare them. So there has to be some conversation, and it might not just be between Brunson and Cat. And we've talked about this before. One of the deficiencies of the head coach is that he's really not a great offensive head coach, right? He doesn't believe in really calling plays. I always make fun of his quote where the game tells you where you need to go. Like that's one of his quotes he says all the time. So, and when you hear that, you're like, no, you are the coach. You tell them where they need to go, right? Like that's your job. And it's just becoming glaring. And again, we're nitpicking. It's very early. The Knicks are not a terrible team. They could have won all of the games they were been in, except for the one against Boston. Yep. So, I mean, I'm not overreacting. I'm not trying to say we're overreacting here, but these are little things you notice, and you want to start building that foundation now with those 2 guys. And you don't want it to become a problem. You don't want eventually Towns to be like, I could have helped, but that guy's not passing me the ball. You don't want it to get to that point, because right now it's still all new and everyone's all happy and we're in love, and like they're in the honeymoon period, right? Like we're still in that honeymoon period. So that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying right now is that we need to see that connection, and when we do see it, it's awesome, right? It's like
absolutely
it's fantastic. So absolutely. That's where we're going. Like, and that's kind of what we're saying with this. So I'm going to jump to another story now that came out.
Okay.
And this is a story that we've heard in the past. And it's kind of funny how the conversation changed when your team stinks, right? Let's be honest. Milwaukee's terrible right now. So now it's being leaked, and I'm sure it's by his agents that, well, maybe he doesn't want to stay here anymore. Maybe he wants to move. Maybe he wants New York, and not just the Knicks, because we've also heard the Nets thrown out there. So we've had this discussion, and immediately it's the funniest thing. We just got Towns, the guy we're just talking about, and now as soon as the story broke, everyone's like, "Oh, we should trade him." Towns, I'm like, "What are you?" So Ty, we're laughing because we both think this is like ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you saw this story, just give your quick impression. Like, what were you thinking when you saw it, and what do you think about it now?
It was more along the lines of what you said. It's like, oh, now you want to come here. Or, it's like you're waiting around. The Knicks have probably the best, I would say, best build going on that we've seen for this franchise in a very long time. I think we all kind of believe that the pieces will work. It's just obviously going to take time. Like we said, 20 games, probably maybe even 25 games. We might have to wait and see until everybody gets kind of acclimated. We know that there's some injuries involved, et cetera. I was like, it was just typical Knicks, coverage of the Knicks. It's like, now you want to add this guy into the mix, another star, because now we definitely have a bona fide star, if you want to say it, in this league. And we have 2, I guess. You can count Brunson, but I think you want to say Karl Anthony Towns as a big. He's probably the best in the business next to Jokic. Obviously, we know about the Jokic comparison and the talk about that from Austin Rivers. We can talk about that a little bit too. But
Mhm.
one of the things is that I think the Knicks have addressed the issue that Giannis would be addressing if he was here. You have a five that is way more talented offensively. You know, the thing about Greek Freak, I guess, is the whole, granted, he's a multi MVP candidate. He's won it, I think, twice, I think, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
twice.
He's won finals MVP. So we know his resume is better technically than Karl Anthony Towns. But when we're thinking about like the Knicks, it's like, do you need a guy like Giannis? And I think the answer is no, in a sense, because Karl Anthony Town kind of fits everything that you would want from this Knicks squad because you already got the defense on the wings. You definitely just need two prolific scorers that are unstoppable. And I think both Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns provides that. The whole dynamic about bringing in Giannis, and people think, oh, well, maybe we can keep Karl Anthony Towns and put Giannis in center. I'm like, what the hell are you guys thinking about? It's like, no, that's not bad. That's what the math is not math, and is well, this basketball is not basketballing because that does not work. I mean, who would want that nightmare? I mean, you got one guy who really shoots the hell out of the ball, and granted, the spacing would be there from Karl's standpoint. But Giannis is a liability when it comes into the crunch time because he can't shoot free throws. He does not have a great pull-up game. Sorry. He's really just a physical specimen who intimidates. I always say he's a 7-foot Rusty. That's what he reminds me of. He's a 7-foot Russell Westbrook, just maybe a little bit more honed in than Rusty because Rusty doesn't understand pace and a lot of the stuff about the game. He just never got it. But it's like, it's almost like the whole audacity that somebody probably just wrote this article, obviously to get his name out that he wants to come somewhere or get out of the market. I mean, I think the greatest chance is that he won't end up in the East Coast anyway. I don't think they're going to trade him, that the deal with him for the next 8 to 9 years or however long his career is. So it's like, who wrote this article strategically just to put the Knicks into play, knowing that they just got Karl Anthony Towns? They probably can't even trade him anyway. And why would they want to trade him, given that the whole dynamic of this team was kind of built around the concept that they've always wanted Karl Anthony. They finally got him. This the perfect pairing. If it does work, if they go back to our first reel and start running damn pick and roll, it'd be even more beautiful to watch unfold. But I just think it was just the media being the media, an agent being an agent, mentioning those teams. I don't know how he even gets to Brooklyn, to be very honest. I mean, what are you trading Ben Simmons and what, some picks? That doesn't even make sense either. I just think it's just, basically something to stir up the fan base. And some people bid into it because they're like, oh, the Knicks pull off these trades. You never know. This could be them getting Karl Anthony Towns and knowing that they eventually want to get Giannis. I'm like, look, let's put away the little spyglass. I'm one person who loves a good conspiracy himself. But however, that makes no damn sense that you would bring in Karl to trade him for Giannis. It doesn't, the team concept, how it's built, it just does not mix very well. So you didn't bring him in for that. And perfectly for me, any guy that you can stop by asking him to do the fundamental things in basketball, the two fundamental things in basketball, which is shoot and shoot free throws. If you can stop a guy that's great by asking him to do those two things, I don't want him on my damn team. I don't care how great he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I agree with you, especially with the fit. Like the fit of this team, Towns is a perfect fit for this team. Mm-hmm. So as great as Giannis is, and I'm not taking anything away from the man, defensively, he's fantastic. One of the best defensive players in the league. Two-time MVP. I mean, NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP, where he was fantastic and did hit his free throws. Like that was one time where we could say he was, that player. So yeah, all of his accolades, well deserved, well earned. He seems like a great guy, great, all of that stuff. But to me, it's just too late now, right? Like it's too little, too late. This should have been, if this was something that he wanted, he should have said it the first time when we were talking about it. Like the first time it came up. Yeah. That's when he should have said it because we had the assets at that time and we had the picks they would have wanted and we had all that stuff. But now, now it's easy to say you want to come to the Knicks when they have a team that can contend. Like the timing of it is strange. And especially because the Bucks right now are terrible.
Yeah.
And they're getting blown out. It's not like they're just losing. They're getting destroyed by teams. So
Doc Rivers? They're getting
Yeah. I mean, that's probably part of it. I do think that in a lot of instances they just got old at
oh
key positions,
yeah,
right? Like they're
yeah,
just getting old.
yeah. I agree.
Um, so it's whatever, but he's getting old too, right? Like
Sure.
he's getting old as well.
That too.
So, and players like him, athletic players like him, unless you're LeBron, tend not to age well. That's kind of what happens. Eventually, you have to come below the rim, and you have to learn become a better shooter, and you have to do all of these things to prolong your career. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm not the hugest fan of his, but I've always admired his hustle and the way
Absolutely.
how hard he plays, all of that stuff. I've always admired. So
Mhm.
if we had gotten him before this point, I would not have been upset. I would have been
Oh,
very happy about it.
I agree. I agree with that.
But now that we have Towns, yeah, I'm good. Like I
Yeah.
don't need this guy. I hope he doesn't get traded within the East, but whatever happens, happens. I can't say anything. I could see him going out west somewhere. If
That's it.
it were me and
Mhm.
and this team could swing it somehow, they wanted to like dominate at least for the next 3 or 4 years. If Denver could get him, I think that would be an awesome pairing with him
That would
and
be great.
Jokic,
That would be
right?
absolutely. That would be absolutely.
So yeah,
And
I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
that probably would work too, with given how Jokic is.
right. That's what I mean. So it would
Yeah.
be a very interesting pairing. It's not going to happen, but that would be like an ideal as a fan of basketball. I would love to see something like that.
That'd be crazy.
Uh,
You
but
know,
yeah,
I've
not for us. Not
you,
for us.
you know I've said OKC is one team, possibly
Yes, that's another one. Yeah.
linked to Golden State before. I could definitely see something like that happening with you pairing them with Steph for the remainder of Steph's career. I think it would benefit both of them greatly because the only thing he has to really do is run the damn floor and not try to act like he's a point forward, because I never thought he was that anyway. So if he's your ultimate center next to Steph, I think that's a wonderful pairing. How can you get any better than that? They'd be very deadly.
Yeah.
And we floated the OKC idea about it would probably cost them Chet and the assets they got, but they would need more monies to make it kind of up. But that'd be somewhere to look at. I mean, I imagine him and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander,
Right.
going down the stretch of games and Shea being the finisher, and just Giannis playing the five. I think he would be a great five. That's what I think. But he doesn't need we don't need him in New York. I mean, I know it feels great to actually have to say that for once. We don't need a player, but we do need, if he wanted to come play the backup five. Oh, I had no problem with him coming and playing the backup five. If they would take Mitch, Precious, and a couple of Snicker bars and a couple of hot dogs, I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of, we talked about Towns already a little bit, but speaking of everyone who looked at him before we got him and like, oh, he can't rebound. He's averaging 12 and a half rebounds, people. So the reason why he wasn't rebounding as much last year is because they have Gobert.
Drum roll. I was about to say the drum roll.
Yeah. I mean, they have Gobert, right? So yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there because that's something that I heard before, and I'm like, yeah, when he had to rebound, when he was their center, he rebounded just fine and was one of the league leaders all the time. So again, just wanted to point that out to certain people because there are people who are looking at that. Yeah.
I think the whole Jimmy Butler fiasco, which I'm going to blame Tibbs for because he probably instigated the whole damn thing, try to motivate these guys and go back to this old school way. And these guys cannot be pushed the same way guys were in 1985 and 1990. It's just a whole different mentality. These kids are very. I don't want to say it in a bad way, like they're sensitive, but they are more sensitive. They have what do they have? They have HR departments now that really work compared to the back in the day. There was no HR. HR was homeroom. It wasn't what we nowadays. These kids are more brought up to thinking about the needs of others and not to offend people, and that they have rights, which they're entitled to. I mean, we grew up in a tougher time. Maybe mentally, you had to be more tougher, but Tibbs probably wanted to, kind of do a little hazing, and it backfired, to be very honest. But I think the thing is too, it's like a lot of people, and then they went through the interviews. Oh, listen to how he talks. Look at his mannerisms or whatever. I don't care a damn about that. The dude can ball. He's a baller. Why everybody pretending like they thought he was going to come here and all of a sudden he's going to average OG numbers. Like he's going to get 3 three rebounds and fall on the floor 10 times. They act like that's who Karl Anthony Towns is, and he's always been a guy who can be a double-double machine. The question was whether or not he can be a rim protector because he got a little bit lazy with that. That was a legitimate question about him, and then his shot selection. Those are things that you can have harked on and wondered about before he got here. But
Right.
rebounder, absolutely a phenomenal scorer. Those are two things you should have never thought twice about when he came in the uniform.
Yeah, I mean I've always been a fan of his game.
Mhm.
I did have the reservations that the same ones that you have. Like I've always had those reservations as well.
Mhm.
But I mean, as a talent and as a guy on the floor, I mean, Dennis Rodman was soft spoken, right? Dennis Rodman off the court was a soft spoken dude, but on the court he played hard as hell and
Mhm.
whatever. So I mean, that never meant much to me. I don't give a crap about that stuff. That's just people wanting to try to build a narrative. But I mean, skill wise, like you said, you brought up the Austin Rivers thing and mentioning Jokic, and I even said this. Remember, I said it as well. I said
We were
about
talking about it. That was one thing about we was having a conversation about it.
yeah. So I mean, I said next to Jokic, I think he's the most skilled big in the NBA with regards to his ability to shoot. He's a good passer. He has a post game. There's literally no holes in his offensive game, I don't think. So, you look at someone like that, he's not Jokic. Nobody is, but
They ripped Austin for that. Oh man, they went after
of course.
because the thing was that I think the context was completely taken out. He was taken completely out of context. The context of what he was mentioning was the same thing you had brought forth, and you and I had the conversation in a thread with the rest of the guys, and we talked about it. I said, if Karl Anthony Towns is mentally wired different, he could be better than Jokic. It definitely has a lot to do with the wiring because when you look at how Jokic approaches the game is the difference because he has to approach it that way. He's not as gifted of a scorer as Karl Anthony Towns is. Karl Anthony Towns is wired to shoot threes, take people off the dribble. He's got a post game. He's a 3-level scorer. Not that Jokic is not, but we know cosmetically it's going to look a little bit more like me and you.
That's true.
That's very true. And they're like,
yes.
it's an uglier game per se. Whereas Karl has a bag, and bags do look good. It's basically that's what the difference is. But I don't think Austin was off. I just think people was like, oh, you're thinking, and he preferenced and did say, Jokic is the best player in the NBA. And he said that, and it was much like our conversation. It was like I just think Karl's more skilled offensively. They're like, oh God,
yeah,
went off on him.
Yeah, so that I mean, again, I'm not saying he's Jokic. Nobody is. I already said that.
Nobody is.
But on a talent level, he's close. He is close. So that's something that I'm glad he's here, and I'm glad he's playing the way he's playing because it's shutting a lot of people up.
Yeah.
That's what I'll just leave it like that for now. So we did finally sign a player. We did finally get this guy. We've heard all of the stuff about him wanting to be here, and then the Knicks drafted him in the G League draft. So I mean, Matt Ryan is finally a Knick. He's a New York kid, coming home. I haven't seen the video yet. Maybe someone made one funny. I don't know, but I don't see one. But the reason I put this story in is because the larger conversation is the financial maneuvering that the Knicks are doing to field teams. They are finding loopholes that I don't even think the NBA knew existed. Shout out to Brock Aller, man. That dude knows what he's doing. And it leads to a bigger conversation. I mean, we could talk about Ryan's impact and the shooting he's going to bring, and that'll probably help space the floor. But shouldn't we name Brock Aller GM by now?
Let me tell you. I know Craig somewhere moist. That'd be the best way I can say. He's somewhere moist. We're talking about his boy.
Right. Very true.
And I think he would come on and say he's moist. That's just, I'm not being funny when I say that about my boy. What's up? He calls himself the Rain Man. There you go. Put it up in there. To let y'all know we're not playing. What does he put? The Rain Man. There you go. But literally, when you think about Brock Aller, man, My thing was, I said, well, he has to be the highest paid exec in that whole organization.
I hope so.
Because if he's not, somebody's gonna offer him the greatest bag on the planet to come work for their organization. Because there's one thing that Craig pointed out all the time, which was the fact that you could always overpay the front office personnel and hire the best of the best. And I always say, smart people surround themselves with people that are smarter than them, and that's ode to Leon Rose hiring this dude who clearly knew what the hell he was doing. He got the manual. He was the operating chief. He had everything and every trick and understanding. I mean, it's just been brilliant. I mean, this is Craig called him Rain Man because it's literally like the movie Rain Man. He's counting cards that nobody else is seeing. He's just a genius in his own mind. And I know the cliche is always that some people are playing checkers, some people playing chess. Well, he's a grandmaster. He's not just a regular chess player. He's a grandmaster because what we're seeing here is arguably the greatest art piece of any capologist ever in the NBA. Because when you learn about how they even got the Karl Anthony Towns trade done,
I know
it's just the most cerebral killing that you'll ever see. This is on some Dexter taking out serial killers level and leaving not a speck of blood. This dude is cerebral as hell. I don't even know. I mean, how can you not promote him? I mean, unless he's one of those people that doesn't want the whole, the limelight on him, literally. But his paycheck should really reflect how brilliant he is because, I mean, the cat trade, just to give people a little bit of edification about that, it stems back to how they signed Dadier to his rookie deal.
I know.
The foresight is absolutely, I don't even think people know how deep it is. The fact that you signed a kid and he took less in the first round, this is before Karl Anthony Towns was even a concept, really, literally tradable asset. And they pinpointed what they wanted to do and they had the moves and then they had to wait for another contract. I think the guy had to expire it was expiring at the right time in order to execute the trade or the monies wouldn't work. This is where, if you want to talk about where the Knicks' greatness has started, it probably has started in the front office with Brock Aller, and then it's stemmed out to everything else. Even him supposedly telling Tibbs no on certain moves. This guy is running the Knicks, and the Knicks fans should be ecstatic. He might get the statue. I mean, we can do better than they did Wade down in Wade County. I don't know who the hell that dude is. But anyway, that statue, they might as well. I mean, that's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They might as well carved him out of a Hershey bar. That thing was so damn terrible down there. But Brock Aller, that dude might get this first statue if the Knicks win a championship because, I mean, I'm about to forego all the rest of them. This dude is damn brilliant.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think the things that they've done and that he's orchestrated to build this roster. It really boggles my mind. And then like to use the G League to draft him and Shamet in the G League draft and, to make their contracts two-wayable and, allow Shamet to be on the team and be in the organization and, rehab and all of that stuff. And if they do need him, then they can bring the whole thing is just really, really intelligent and smart. And again, I don't know if other teams are doing this. So if they are, maybe it's not just him, but because he's the Knicks guy, we hear about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the media talks about it. Like everyone talks about the maneuvering they've done to put together this squad. I mean, Towns makes $49 million a year, right? So they were taking that in. And, yes, Julius made about 27, I think, 26 or 27 or something. Mm-hmm. So, but that's only half. So they were over the cap, like all the things they had to do to make this work. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal job he's done. So, yes, I have it as Matt Ryan. They did sign him. Hopefully he gets, he starts playing soon. I think they could use his shooting touch. Yeah. But what?
Yeah, they can use his shooting touch.
Right. I think, it'd be nice to, bring him off the bench. Miles McBride was an 0 for last game, and obviously he's not going to do that all the time, but in a game where he is having that kind of game, it would be nice to be able to bring the shooter in like that if you needed to. Which brings me to the next point. I did a nice little segue. See what I did there? This, I get having an 8-man rotation in the playoffs. I get that.
Yeah.
It is freaking November 6th. The season is barely 2 weeks old. And you're sitting here and you're playing 8 guys and that's it? I mean, and I say 8. Tyler Kolek played like 6 minutes. So you really only played 7 the last game. Like, what are we doing? Everyone talks about how he runs guys to the ground. This is what we mean, folks. This kind of thing. So you have, like you brought up Daddy, you have Huck Porty, you have guys who have shown that they have the capability of playing in this league. So play them. Like, we are not gonna. Last year in the playoffs, yes, I'm not gonna blame the injuries on him. They were not his fault.
No.
A lot of the maybe OGs, but OG's just made of paper mache anyway. So I'm just waiting for the injury for him. Like, I hate picking on the guy all the time, but when you make $212 million a year, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you if you wind up getting hurt. That's just good. That's just part of the deal. So why are we not going deeper into the bench, especially in games where, I don't know, the offense is stalling? Like I said, Brunson didn't have a great shooting game. Like, would it have been that much more difficult to give Kolek maybe 10 minutes? Like, so I don't know. We've talked about this so much, but what do you think about this really short rotation in freaking November?
I thought the worst thing that came about was when I would say that the sign of the apocalypse is, one of the horses gallop in. Well, the horse happened to be Karl Anthony Towns, because in that blowout that was up 30 points, he brought him in at 5 minutes left. I'm like, what the hell are we doing?
True, yes.
Why is the chemistry lab got to blow up? Why can't you just make it less explosive and sit it down and put somebody else in the lab? It made no damn sense whatsoever. So we move on to this 8-man rotation, even with the Rockets. I brought up Sims a lot. Sims plus minus was absolutely great. However, one of the issues is I just think that he just doesn't look for his shot. And clearly Brunson wasn't looking for him either. I mean, we saw the stat line of that, where somebody like Huck Porty, I thought, could have gave him some good tenacious minutes, because he's a bruiser. He's an energy guy. The Knicks obviously needed someone to actually ramp up the intensity. This is what you need for certain teams. Like, there are teams throughout the league. It's not like it's math science here, or like I'm being brilliant here. You can't run the same thing for every damn team. It's just what it is. You got to sometimes learn to pivot. Like, this guy may have it going on, or this guy may not. You might need him in these kind of. You're in a dog fight. You need a dog. Right. This is more of a cat. No offense to cat, but he's more. He's like a house cat. He's like meow. He want meow a little bit.
Yeah, he's very mild mannered. Yeah,
very mild mannered. His claws retract. He don't got them all out. It's just what he is as a person. It's a personality thing more so than it's a skill set thing for me with him.
Right.
Would it have killed to give Huck Porty 5 of those minutes when you see the Rockets are clearly out physicaling you, if you want to use, if that's even a word? They brought the bodies. They were looking for bodies that day. That's what they were doing. They were very intense, which, I forewarned. I said the Rockets are going to play the Knicks extremely tough, because that's how they got Ime Udoka. We know what he's about. He's bringing his teams are going to play friggin' ball. They're not going to sit there. So just as intense as people didn't call it, Tom Thibodeau is for the Knicks, Ime Udoka is that dude. He's that dude too. He's like maybe more even than Tom, because he gets in his players like toilet tissue. Fill in the blank. That's how he is. He's an intense dude himself. So to know that you are not matching wits with your coach, with your opposing coach, is an issue we always have with Tom, because guys like Spoelstra usually outcoach him. We've seen what's the guy in Boston outcoach him. It's like you don't make adjustments. So when you're sitting there with an 8-man rotation and you're in the middle of the first several weeks, I can get it if you're trying to build chemistry. I can completely understand that. But in games where that chemistry is not working and you have other talented guys that can get their shot, a guy like Kolek who can operate and orchestrate an offense, Clearly,
Right.
you're not getting Towns activated. That was when you look back on the Rockets game. We saw Brunson, go into the abyss. That's literally what it was. He was like, I'm going to try to win. He played hero ball, which, that to me is always the worst kind of ball, especially when it's not falling. So what would it kill them to say, take a breather? You got Jalen Brunson out there playing like 39 minutes almost. I think, or no, 42 minutes, I think was the end of the game. He's played 42 out of the 48 minutes. It's like, dude, put someone else in. That's not going to hurt his ego. What if his ego's hurt? Then he needs to go see a therapist. You got to put someone in to get the players going. If he can't do it, and it's all right if you don't got it. Every game you're not going to have it, but at least give people an opportunity to kind of come in and see what they can provide for the team. It's a long season, and see what may work. Kolek, what is he going to play worse than Brunson? I mean, I look at Brunson's numbers. I mean, he got his numbers, but that shooting percentage was putrid. And and the way it was, he doubled up 3 starters in the shot attempts. I think he was like 29 or 26 or whatever. Everybody else was 14. Carlton Towns, I think, was 17. It's like, that's not great shot distribution. Whereas a guy like Kolek, who's going to come in to defer, who probably would definitely run the pick and roll with Cat, because he's not looking to score. He can score, but he's not looking to score. Imagine him coming off that pick and roll and looking for where Cat is at. Now, that'd be some dangerous damn basketball being played in New York. But, Tom, the stubbornness is always going to be the issue with this coach. And if we're going to talk about winning and losing on a big level, we've talked about this off camera, and I'll just bring it up on camera. I don't think that it's ever going to be the players' issue if we lose a title. It's going to be the coach and the system that they run. I always think that that's the weakness of this squad. I mean, obviously health being the number one concern. The second concern is this coach knowing when and when not to, or to know how to adjust. He puts too much on his players, definitely on the offensive end, to figure things out. No, you watch more tape than everyone. He's got more tapes than Kid Capri. That's what we keep hearing. He watches more tapes than Kid Capri. He's got all the tapes. But yeah, he has never figured out how to run an offense. This is like the worst case thing when people tell me that they're an expert at something, but yet you're not doing expert things. You're not showing us that you have the capability of actually figuring out a damn pick and roll, which is the oldest play in the book. You hear Clyde pronounce it all the time. The oldest play in the book is the pick and roll, and it is. We watch Stockton and Malone run this thing brilliantly. And granted, Brunson's no Stockton, but you could see that tandem working, or you could see a Steve Nash, with Amari Stoudemire working. You can get some sort of dynamic where you could see these guys coming in and finding some sort of cohesion. But the fact that he is just sitting there, it's 8 men or die. Josh, who I love. I'm never talking bad about Josh Hart in a way of trying to critique his game. I think he's a brilliant player for what he provides. But we are still going to go back to the same thing we've discussed. Having him in that starting 5 sometimes, it can be brilliant when you're playing fast. But when you're in a half-court slowed-down set, he is a liability in a lot of ways because teams know what he is not willing to do on the floor. They know he's not going to drive the ball. He's not going to take you. If he drives, it's going to be a straight line, or it's going to be driving into the paint from the angle to end up distributing it out, hoping to spray it out.
Yep.
He's if you think he's going to do a 2 bounce and a pull up, not happening. This is not his game, and I think I always believe you put people in places where they can prosper and they can be their best version of themselves. I don't care what it is in life. So when you look at that kind of dynamic, are you putting Josh Hart in his best place? Absolutely not. You're not. And then you're asking him to now be a scoring guard when it might need to be opposite. He might need to be the point, and Brunson needs to be the scoring guard. You might need to switch that up a little bit because have him operate the top of the key and let Brunson play off the ball, because that might be a better dynamic now if you're going to stick stubbornly to this lineup as opposed to letting Brunson be an orchestra. He's just not that dude, and it's not a knock. He's not a point guard, but you have a point guard on your team. Now, all those damn minutes he was giving Cameron Payne to throw up bad shots because he could have done that job. If somebody really wanted to get a bad point guard, they could have got me, and I'll just do all the damn shots. I'll just keep long. As long as you give me that $3 million they're making, You could have started me for the Knicks because that's what the equivalent of what campaign brings. Now you have him doing that kind of garbage, that hot ass garbage on the floor, but you got a guy like Kolek who's more controlled, has an intelligence about the game. He's not a sieve on defense, but it's like let him rock out and see what's he going to kill. You lost the game anyway.
That's the thing. Like this is the time right now. If you're looking to bank minutes for your young players early in the season is where you can do that because everyone's still trying to figure things out, and then you see what you have. Again, it's just this coach. I commented this in our group chat. We heard all that talk about him. Oh, he's changed, he's a different coach now. He is the exact same coach he has always been, and I'm not blaming him because for the most part he's had success from it, so I get it. But I mean, like I said, if you're doing this and it's April and you're ramping up for the playoffs, totally understand. If that's what you want to do in the playoffs, play a short bench, fine. But the calendar is 11/6/2024. Like that is what the day we're at. And the Knicks are 3-3 and play these guys. See what you have. Play them now too. And I'm not saying they're going to trade them, but if they start playing well, other teams might look and have some interest. Like you want to do the best for these players, not just for your own team, but as assets so they can become tradable. Yeah. Right? That's how I look at it. So yeah, man, this it just annoys me because again, it's so early, and by the end of the season, if these guys don't have a good run in the playoffs again, and they crap out in the second round, and the guys start getting these little nicks and these like the little nicks and these little bruises, and can't play in the playoffs, and they're diminished or whatever, I am going to look at him this time because it's starting already, and it's ridiculous. It's crazy for me, and I don't understand it. So, all right. We got some sad news in Knick Nation, and I just wanted to point it out here. Brendan Brown, who's the son of UB Brown and was also a Knicks radio announcer, passed away at the age of 54. They said from health complications, so I don't know exactly what those were. But he was a very beloved announcer, obviously being UB Brown's son. He was a Knicks scout at one point, very beloved in the organization. A lot of the broadcasting community who knew him feeling a big loss right now. So I just wanted to mention it, bring it up. Rest in peace to Brendan Brown and condolences to the Brown family. I'm just thinking about UB Brown as almost 90 if he's old and just loses a child. I mean, you should never have to lose your own child. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Shout out to the Brown family. Absolutely. I've always respected UB a lot. That's one of my favorite announcers to listen to is UB. So,
right. So yeah, rest in peace to Brendan Brown. All right.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Craig, what are you even talking about? He just said trade them Giannis now. I have no idea what he's talking about. All right, so just really quickly, the game starts in 8 minutes, so we'll end it soon. But apparently, they spoke to Tom Thibodeau. People asked him about Matt Ryan, and they said it was going to be he said situational. So, isn't that every player is outside of the starting five? Like, isn't every guy on the bench situational? That's why you bring them in.
Well, I think it would be like really like what they say when you hear something, you got to take a shot. Well, you be drunk off of Tom Thibodeau because he has the most cliche answers for everything. We brought him about in the private chat. I said, he's not going to say that the offense was bad. He's going to say, oh, they just played defense. It's like, dude, everything is not about playing defense because you have to, at the end of the game, what is it about? One team having at least one more point than the other team. So scoring matters in this game. No matter how much you may not want to hark on it, the game still comes down to who can score the ball the best and stop the other team from scoring. So offense is still a major part of basketball. I just don't understand that's why I was laughing when you brought up Matt Ryan. I'm like, he's not going to play. He's not going to play.
Well,
he should be out in the game.
But then why make a big why even make a big deal about it? That's my thing. Like,
well, that's what I was going to bring up earlier. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to bring up about the fact that all this brilliant work that Brock Aller's doing, and I'm like, to do all this brilliant work to have it never utilized would be a crime in itself, because you're doing all these things to give this guy every weapon needed to compete at a very high level. Yeah, we know Boston is the echelon that you got to climb Mount Boston right now, and you need to be on all, just completely locked in. You got to be on all firing all cylinders to beat Boston. It's just what it is. They're an exceptional team that plays for each other. They got the chemistry thing down pat, and they happen to have two very talented. I think Tatum's more talented, but you got some extraordinary wings that you can't rely on thinking you're going to stop Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in a game over 7 games. You're not stopping them. You may prevent them from going for 40 is what you might do. So you can't say, oh, we got OG and we got Bridges. Well, you got two guys who are going to get their asses lit up is what you got, because that's what's going to happen. Offense always outdoes defense. It's just what it is in basketball. So what you have to do is be able to have a well-oiled machine that makes them have to work just as diligent on the other end playing defense, because you got to have an unstoppable offense that causes them to foul. You got to balance the crap out. The fact that they believe that he's going to roll with 8 men to beat Boston is ludicrous. You got to get all these guys acclimated. I ain't talking Luda from down in Atlanta. I'm talking, this is ludicrous on the Mike Tyson and ludicrous level. You can't sit there and have these guys and believe defense is going to win. This is not the 90s. This is not really,
and I mean,
basketball. It's not working.
Yeah, and why like someone like Dadier, right? Like, why keep him here if you're not going to play him? Like, he could have gone back to Europe. You could have put him in the league, whatever, and he could have played and got more minutes. And why keep him here? It's just this coach again. He's been fantastic since he's been here. Yes, he's rebuilt the culture, all of that stuff. Yes, 100%. But like you said, and we've talked about this before. I agree with you 100%. If the Knicks do not progress past, get either to the conference finals or make the finals with this current roster and him as coach, it's not the players, it's him.
It's a coaching,
100% him.
It's a coaching fail, and need not look anywhere any different, because right now the Knicks, where they're situated, we've had 2 second round exits. For the past 2 years, which is brilliant. I mean, don't get me wrong, we were terrible before that, so I'll take it. However, now that you've loaded, this team looks like what you wanted. This is a Tom Thibodeau team. Yep. You have and offensively, you have 2 of the most gifted scorers in the game. So you have pretty much what every other great team has. When you go back to Denver, they had Jokic and they had Jamal Murray, and then they had all the extra players around them. So they were built that way. Boston's the same way. A lot of role players and 2 dynamic players. The Knicks have all the things that is made up to win a championship in this modern day era that we've seen examples of. If they keep going to the second round and they don't get past the second round this year, and they're healthy. We're saying they're healthy. They're fully healthy.
Right. That's a huge yes.
You have Mitchell Robinson back. You got Shamet. You got Ryan. You got all these dudes. They're lock and loaded. No health issues going in. If the Knicks don't get out the second round, you got to look at that coach.
Right. That's why. Yes. That's why I think. Oops. What's going on with my camera? Hold on.
Tom Thibodeau's trying to.
I think so. Maybe.
I'm talking about.
I'll just talk then, because whatever's going on is going on. So I'll just talk. You guys can look at my picture. Yeah, I agree. I firmly believe that if they get beat in the second round again this year, they will make a coaching change. That's my opinion. I know that's very early, and it's very, saying that now. Yeah, everyone's like, ha, whatever. But that's my take. I don't think they're going to do this experiment again with getting all these players this year. And if they make the conference finals, he'll be back. I think he'll be back if they make the conference finals. But anything less than that for me in this season, if I'm looking at it, it's time to try someone else. Time to get a closer. That's what I'll say. It's time to get Mariano Rivera. Let's bring in the Mariano Rivera to get them over the
bring in the Sandman. Because I mean, when you look at it, like with this team, you know, that's why I think we're a little bit animate about early on with this team and certain things we're seeing. We're going, okay, are you going to make any shifts? Because we realize it's going to take more than what we've been getting from Tom Thibodeau to win big. So he has to come up off this 8-man rotation and his limited offensive playbook, if there is even a playbook on offense that he even has in his possession. You know, we know those changes have to come via him. He has to make the changes and the necessary adjustments to win big. And if he doesn't, this is not good for the Knicks. And so far, he started off being stubborn Tom.
Yeah, I mean that's really the truth. So that's the one thing we've all said that eventually will hold them back. And I think we will obviously wait and see. But again, the fact that there's an 8-man rotation on November 6th is alarming, in my opinion. So yeah, so we'll see. So we'll see what happens. But it is approaching. It is 7:30 now. So we're not going to keep you guys anymore. We're going to let you guys go watch the game. Let's go Knicks. Again, Knicks are playing the Hawks right now. Is it home? No, it's in Atlanta. This is that. Yeah, so I think this is the end of the road trip, right? Then they come home, I believe, next game. So again, let's go Knicks. Hope they get this one tonight. And we'll see you guys next week. We'll be back next week to talk about all this again and probably more. So for Ty, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up, and we'll see you next time.